So guys, if you caught our second episode, I gave a brief introduction to our caravan, our home on wheels. In this episode I'm just going to dive a bit more deeply into that and give you a bit more information about it. So this wasn't our first caravan. A few years ago I had a mate selling a caravan for a really reasonable price, and at that time we were really consciously thinking about getting into the caravanning game. So we saw that as a really good opportunity to buy it, and we bought his 2015 New Age Manta Ray. It was only a single axle, just 16 foot long. We did a few trips away in it. It was a good caravan and it gave us a really good taste of caravanning life. It helped us with deciding what we thought was the most important things for us in a caravan that we were going to do in an indefinite trip around Australia. So I actually even looked into upgrading that caravan, upgrading the battery and the solar system, even talking to an engineer to see whether we could get the gross trailer mass and the aggregate trailer mass increased so we could carry a little bit more. But after thinking about it and finding out the cost of all these things, for the age of the caravan, it just really wasn't worth the money. So I started to look around for a new caravan, and using our limited experience plus watching loads of YouTube videos of people that were doing the same sort of travel that we wanted to do in a caravan. Our two main priorities that we were looking for was, one, it had to be able to go off-road, and two, it had to have an excellent off-grid system so we could do as much free camping as we wanted. So I looked around for quite some time. Although there are plenty of off-road caravans for sale out there aren't many out there that have a really awesome off-grid system with it as well, especially within the budget that we had set for ourselves. And finally I came across this caravan. So if you watched our last episode, you'll know that this is a 2018 Highline Enforcer. It's also a single axle caravan and it's only 17 foot 6 long. And the one other thing that we had to consider when buying a caravan was our fur baby Buff. Now he's a big dog, he's getting on with age and he's got some arthritis in his rear legs these days.
So with the old caravan, the New Age, for his bed, to try and sort of keep him out of the way so we could get past him, we'd set his bed up with, like, you could lift the table up and we'd put a platform across the seats, and the idea was for him to sleep up out of the way where the table was. Unfortunately, with the arthritis, getting up on a right angle turn was just getting really difficult for him. So he ended up sleeping in the middle of the corridor, which meant that trying to get past him in the middle of the night to the toilet was just really quite difficult. So when we found this Highline Enforcer, the door is at the rear, so it's really helpful that we could put his bed at the back in this doorway, and it still allows us to access the bathroom without having to climb over the top of him in the middle of the night.
Okay, so why did we want a single axle caravan? I know most people out there wouldn't choose a single axle, especially for an indefinite trip around the country. But we were looking at it from a manoeuvrability perspective. It'd be so much easier to manoeuvre a single axle caravan, especially in tight tracks. Secondly, we didn't want to tow anything that was going to be too heavy. That way we could save a bit of money on fuel, which particularly over an indefinite trip of Australia, those costs are really going to be quite considerable. So with the less weight, we're hoping to save a few bucks. And also, we're just a couple, and not a very big couple at that. And being just the two of us, we just felt we didn't need a really big caravan, and that's why we stuck with the single axle. We also think along the lines of, like, the more space you've got, the more crap you're going to bring, right? You do it in your own home from our experience. So as long as we kept things small, we'd only be bringing things along that we absolutely needed. So the initial reason why this Highline Enforcer caught my eye was, one, because it already had an incredible off-grid system that had been installed, and two, it was a fully off-road caravan. So it just meant that we could camp off-grid for as long as we wanted to without any worry about running out of power, and two, we didn't have to worry about what roads we wanted to travel on either. So as you can see, it's got some pretty heavy duty suspension on it. It's got Oztrekker independent trailing arm suspension with twin shock absorbers on each side, pretty much making it fully capable of going most places we want to explore. So the main reason we bought this caravan was because of its solar and lithium setup. We wanted a system that was in place so we could camp off-grid for long lengths of time, and this caravan really provided that. It was installed by a Adelaide company called Extreme Caravan and Camping, Auto Electrics company, and they installed an incredible system underneath the bed here. It did take away obviously from the space that we could use in the caravan, but It's been well worth having that already. So the two massive batteries there, they're 280 amps each, Power Paul Australia, so Australian made batteries, so it gives us a combined total of 560 amps. It's also got a 3000 watt Victron inverter there, and we've also got the Red Arc DC charger and control systems for like the fold up solar if we wanted to connect a solar blanket, and also the roof solar. So we've got a total of 4 solar panels on the roof, 740 watts. At peak sun, that brings in about 35 amps per hour. If we connect like a 200 watt solar blanket or something like that, it brings in an extra 10 amps per hour. And when we're driving along with the DC to DC charger, because obviously the batteries will charge off the vehicle, that brings in about 25 amps per hour. The other great thing, was installed by this company out of Adelaide, Extreme Caravan and Camping, as already mentioned, and they're just a phone call away. So even though we weren't the guys who installed this system, we can call them at any time if we have an issue with the system, which has already happened to us. We were getting a little bit of overload into the battery and it was closing down. I just gave Matt a call, and he gave me a few helpful hints on how to correct the problem, and then also how to update the system. And he just said to me, anytime you have any issues, just give me a call. So that's just reassuring to know that that we got that backup if we absolutely need it. So to help us monitor what's going on in the battery system, we've got this battery monitoring system display board here. Very handy. You can see what's coming in through solar, what's coming in through the DC to DC charger, also what's coming in when it's 240 mains as well. Pretty handy. We can see at the moment we've got 100% battery life. This is what's coming in through the solar. We've got no AC leads at the moment because we're just not plugged into anything, and this is what's connected continuously to the battery, which is probably the fridge at the moment because we don't really have anything else on. No, it's got a couple of different pages that we can go through. This one's probably the handiest one to see what the inverter's doing, what's coming in. I'm no expert with any of this 12 volt or electrical side of things. Very little knowledge, to be honest, but it's handy just to be able to look at the system and go, yep, everything's working fine. We've got 100% battery, or what the percentage of battery may be, and just to see what's coming in and what's going out. The really cool thing about this off-grid system that's been installed in our caravan is that the guys at Extreme Auto Caravan and Camping have done a YouTube video on it, so it's been really handy for us to be able to watch that, see how everything operates. If you're interested in seeing it, I'll drop the link in the description. So it's really good, shows you how everything operates and how much power that we can get from this off-grid system. So along with the upgrade of the off-grid system, the original owners had also upgraded a number of other things in the caravan which also attracted us. One of those was the fridge. They'd installed a Bushman's 190 litre compressor fridge, so that just meant that we could get rid of the need of having gas to run the fridge, as it runs off the 12 volt system all the time. So a new air conditioner had been installed as well. This is a Dometic Harrier Light air conditioner. It's an extremely efficient air conditioner. It only draws between 40 and 70 amps per hour off the 12 volt system, so we can use it off grid quite easily. So it came with a slightly bigger telly as well. This is a 32-inch Hisense telly. Most tellies you get in the caravans these days are just 24 inches. So they upgraded the shower fan, and also in the bathroom they removed one of the Skyline hatches so they could put an extra solar panel on the roof for the off-grid system. So they upgraded to a Boss jockey wheel and also installed a Savvy level. So the Savvy level is super handy, so anytime we pull up we can just use the app on our phones to level up the caravan. It's probably the next best thing other than having self-leveling airbags in your caravan. So they had these awesome graphics put on the front and the rear as well. It just makes the caravan really stand out, particularly the rear. We get compliments on it all the time. It came with a custom made slide out bush tucker kitchen. That was installed in the tunnel boot, and a custom made A-frame toolbox with a side door and a barbecue slide, and that was carrying a family size Weber. So we added up all the costs of all the extras and the upgrades that have been done to the caravan, and it came to like this crazy amount of over 30 grand. The off-grid system alone was over 20k. So other than ticking off the two main priorities that we were looking for in a caravan, all the other great stuff that had been added to it, it was just too hard to ignore. So other than the really great upgrades that had been done by the original owners, the Caravan itself is nothing special. It's pretty standard Caravan on the side, so I'll just take you for a little bit of a wander through. Yeah, so, you know, in here we've just got a fairly basic bathroom. Just a little bit of a shower in there. It's where we keep a lot of buff stuff, to be honest. And yeah, over here we've got a 3.2 kilo washing machine, just covered with a bit of washing at the moment, but that comes in handy as well. Yeah, so nothing out of the ordinary in the bathroom. And out here we've got the kitchen. Not a lot of bench space, but as I mentioned, we don't carry a lot of stuff. We're not coffee drinkers, so we don't need to worry about a coffee machine. It does have a stove, of course. We've got a 3-burner gas stove with one electric plate, which is pretty handy if we happen to run out of gas. And it's also got a grill and an oven. And then behind me here we've got the lounge. We do most of our food preparation here on this table. So you can see our main storage area inside the Caravan is underneath the seats of the lounge. Fairly decent sized storage there. So we've actually put a couple of tubs and plastic containers in there just so things don't rattle around. As you can see in the corner there, we've got Buff's dog food, we've got a bit of linen there in the background, even got my camp oven, and just a few extra things that won't sort of fit in the kitchen doors. But yeah, it's a handy little space and I think we've utilised it pretty well. And there in the background we've got the bedroom. The good thing that we really like about the bedroom though is it's got these huge windows. It just makes the Caravan feel a little bit bigger. It's the one thing we really noticed about our new age Caravan. It had quite small windows, so you felt a little bit confined with the space. But with these bigger windows, it does make the Caravan feel a lot bigger for us as well. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's a little bit squeezy for us, but you know, we feel right at home here, and I'm sure it's going to do us fine for travelling around Australia in. Okay, so because there's been so many great extras and upgrades already done to this Caravan, there's not really a lot that we could do, but we did come up with a couple, and I'll show you what they are now. So one thing we really noticed about our old Caravan, the new age manta ray that we had, was that the windows were really scratched up from going down tight tracks. Must have been scratching up against bushes and branches and things like that. So what we've done to safeguard that is we've installed some Bush Wraps PPF kit. So it's a protective film that goes over your windows. I saw it in a YouTube video from another family that's driving around, and I thought, what a great idea. So you just order it from Bush Wraps online, and they have installation videos on their website just to show you how to install it. They come in various different sizes depending on what type of window you've got, what type of Caravan you got. So I think it's going to be a very handy thing to have on the windows so they don't get scratched up nastily when we're going down tight tracks. So I replaced that large custom-made toolbox that was on the front of the van. So a couple of days after I installed that box, I went to a customer's house and they were about to take off caravanning, and I was having a bit of a look at their Caravan just to see how they had their setup, and I noticed in their tunnel boot they had a Ziegler Brown barbecue on a slide-out tunnel. And I wish I'd seen this before I'd bought that box that I did. I would have bought even a slightly smaller box, which I've done now. But with the Ziegler Brown, as you can see, it slides perfectly in and out of the tunnel boot, all because it's got this awesome hood that goes all the way under, and when you're cooking you can bring it up over the top, and then when you want to put it away you just pop it down like so, and then she slides into the boot. So highly recommend the single burner Ziegler Brown if you've got a standard size tunnel boot. Okay, so that's all the pros about the Caravan. Now let's talk a bit about its cons. Prior to our first trip away in the Caravan back in February, just to give it a bit of a test run, I had a company called Check Weight come around. They specialise in doing weights on caravans and vehicles, and I just wanted to know how we were travelling with regards to those weights. I was absolutely gobsmacked with how overweight the Caravan was from the results that he gave us. It was all because of all the upgrades and the extras that had been added and made to on the Caravan by the previous owners. The huge custom-made storage box on the front of the Caravan, it was just way too big for a Caravan of this size. A slide-out kitchen in the tunnel boot. just way too heavy for a caravan of this size. Now, even that incredible off-grid system that was installed, as much as I loved it, it was just too big for a caravan of this size, and where it had to be stored, which was underneath the bed towards the front of the caravan, it's just adding weight to that tow ball. And of course, when you add weight to your tow ball, that just goes onto the back of your vehicle. So it added extra weight to the vehicle, making it overweight as well. Yeah, so I was absolutely horrified when he gave me those results, and prior to that trip I ended up having to remove a number of things from the caravan and the vehicle just to make sure that we were going to be driving safely down the highway for that trip. In the months that have passed since that initial visit from Checkweight, in an attempt to reduce the weight of the caravan, especially that tow ball weight, I've ripped off that huge storage box off the front and replaced it with a much smaller one. I also removed the slide out kitchen from the tunnel boot. And we've just basically tried to place any of the heavy items that we want to take towards the rear of the caravan, just to take a bit of that strain off the tow ball weight. It already has a pretty heavy tear tow ball weight of 220 kilos, and because of all the upgrades and the extras that have been done on it, the tow ball weight when he did that initial weight was a massive 420 kilos, so well overweight from where it should be. Right, so a couple of weeks before we took off on this indefinite trip around Australia, I got Checkweight to come back so we could redo all our weights. Now, since their original visit back in February, we'd also upgraded the car. We did have a Colorado, we got rid of that and we purchased a Ford Ranger. And when he did our weights back in February, we were a massive 170 kilos over our aggregate trailer mass. So we were well overweight, and most of that was all on the tow ball. Now, he was actually really pleasantly surprised at how well I'd done with reducing the weight of the caravan. With all the changes that we'd made, we've managed to virtually hit our aggregate trailer mass pretty much spot on. But of course, it's always better to have a little bit of room between your actual weight and the ATM of the caravan. And if you've watched our second episode, you'll know that we've gone and seen an engineer about getting our GTM and ATM increased on the caravan. And with that, we're actually pretty lucky because no actual work has to be done on the caravan itself to increase those weights, which isn't always the case. But all the engineer did was take a good look around the caravan. He took a bunch of photos, and then he had to send off some paperwork, and he said that we could have our ATM increased from 2,700 kilos up to a whopping 3,050 kilos. So just like that, we've got an increase in our payload of 350 kilos. So we've gotten a new caravan plate which has been placed beside the old plate, and it just shows those new weights that the caravan is now capable of. And the best thing is, now we know that we are legal, we are safe, and if we were involved in an accident, our insurance couldn't be voided. As I mentioned, we did upgrade our vehicle. We got a Ford Ranger, and after we had Checkweight do the weights on it, we also found out we had some issues with the GVM of that vehicle, particularly the gross rear axle weight. Once we added the tow ball weight to the rear of the vehicle, the gross rear axle weight was well over where it needed to be. So we decided that we're going to get a GVM upgrade done on that. We've gone with a GVM upgrade done by Petters. That was the biggest upgrade that I could find for a Ford Ranger. So it's going to take our GVM from 3,200 kilos up to 3,670 kilos. And that'll increase our gross rear axle weight to where we need it to be for when we're towing the caravan. So my advice to anyone who is looking at buying a caravan, particularly a second-hand caravan, do all your checks first. You can get a company like Checkweight to come around and do all those initial checks for you. That way you've got peace of mind that everything complies before you actually buy it. It's something that I definitely wish we had done. Probably we wouldn't have bought this caravan if we'd known all the issues we were going to have with it and all the changes that we would have to make sure that it was going to comply. Probably in hindsight we would have gone with a double axle caravan, just because you do get that slightly bigger payload with it, and you do get that little bit of extra room, which could be beneficial for us. But in saying that, we've fitted absolutely everything we needed to in this caravan, and being that it is fully off-road and it's got that awesome off-grid system, I do think it's going to suit our needs right down to the ground, but only time will tell. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful, particularly if you're looking at buying a caravan to travel around Australia in. And if it has helped you, please hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Adios.